I'm Carly Keenan of Delaware Today, and I am oh so grateful that you made time for us to chat today. Please introduce yourself.
Hi Carly, thanks for having me. I'm Joey Saienni, aka Joey Dots. That's my Instagram name. I just added the dots because it's a good marketing tactic, really, is what it comes down to.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And tell me about SMP. We're here to talk about Delaware SMP is your company. What is SMP?
The name of my company is Delaware Scalp Micropigmentation, or Delaware SMP on Instagram. The human head has 1,200 hair follicles per square inch. So what we're doing is we're replicating hair follicles over a series of sessions to create the illusion of a thicker, fuller head of hair. Or in many cases, recreating the hairline. And we also do scar camouflage for people who have botched hair transplants, or even hair transplants that actually worked. So what we'll do is they'll get a bunch of scars back here, and then I'll come in and I'll replicate hair follicles to make it all blend together. And we do both FUT, which is like the strip on the back of the head, or FUE, which is like the little circles on the back of the head.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, do you have SMP?
I do have SMP. It's right here. So you can,
wow.
so
Yeah, I can't even tell.
yeah, the goal is for it to make it look as natural as possible. So you can see it right here. Really what we're trying to do in scalp micropigmentation is reframe the person's face and give them that hairline, give them the separation from their face and the top of their head. So it's like, hey, here I am, here I am. That's what we're really trying to do.
SMP, is this basically a tattoo? Are you a tattoo artist?
I get that question all the time. People always ask me, are you a tattoo artist? Technically, yes, I am a tattoo artist, but this is more of like a cosmetic tattoo. The difference between SMP, scalp micropigmentation, and a regular tattoo is we're staying in the epidermis, which is the first few layers of the skin, maybe about the thickness of a dime, whereas a regular tattoo goes down to the dermis. We don't go that deep. But no, I'm not a traditional tattoo artist. I actually used to work at the bank. I used to work for JP Chase. I made a big transition from corporate America to then making hair follicle replications.
Wow, how did you leave corporate America?
That was a tough decision. And I had a great job. I worked for JP Chase. What happened was I started losing my hair when I was 18, 19 years old, and it's depressing, and it was kind of like thinning. But then it got to the point where my hairline started receding, and I was doing research, and I was like, hair transplant, should I get the hair transplants? And I'm seeing it wasn't giving results. So people were paying $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and they're getting this huge scar in the back of the head. And what they do during a hair transplant is they take the hair from the back of the head and they put it to the front of the head, hoping that it actually works and it starts growing. But there's never enough density, so you take the hair all the way back here and you put it up here. You go from looking bald to looking thin, and I didn't want to spend all that money and not get the result. So I kept researching, and I saw there's this thing called SMP. What's SMP? Scalp micropigmentation. So I kept doing my research, and I thought about it for about 1.5 years, 2 years, because I was looking at this in like 2014. And so then 2016, I was like, whatever, fine, I'm going to do it. So I got what's called a density fill in the beginning, which is where they basically add density to the top of your scalp, because I still kind of had my hairline, but it was thin right here. So I was like, okay, I'll just get this filled in, and that looked great. Made my hair look a lot thicker and fuller, and I loved it. And I was like, but I was driving all the way down to Washington, D.C. We're up here in Wilmington, Delaware. I'm driving 2.5 hours to get that done by Dan Yernberg. Shout out Dan Yernberg. He's great down in D.C. And eventually I was like, no one's doing this in Delaware. Plenty of people suffering from hair loss. So I was like, I'm gonna get trained. So I started using my vacation days. I went down to DC to get trained by Dan, and this was like 2018 is when I took it seriously. In about 2017, I was kind of just practicing at my house. I watched YouTube videos. Don't do that, by the way. If you want to be a real SMP artist, train with an actual trainer. Don't just do YouTube videos. I just want to make that clear. So I started training with Dan, got certified in like 2018, and started doing it out of my house and doing it on practice on friends, family, pretty much anybody who would be a guinea pig. I even sacrificed a big chunk of my leg. I say I mutilated my leg. Like I was deliberately going too deep, using different color inks and big needles and small needles just to see how it looked, because you don't want to mess someone's head up. And eventually my wife was like, you're not allowed to do it out the house anymore. So then I got the lease at my old unit. So at my current location right here, Unit 16, but I used to be in Unit 3 for 3.5, almost 4 years. But recently we moved into this unit. So got my certification, was doing it on nights and weekends, so I would use my vacation day. So if I had finally made a sale, I would use a vacation day and then I would do the procedure, basically, the SMP procedure for a customer. And then it got to the point where I had to do it every weekend. And then I was like, so then I'm working 7 days a week, and then I'd get off work around 5:30, then I'd be doing this from like 6 to 9, sometimes 6 to 10. And it was getting exhausting. And not to go too much into it, but long story short, I'll tell you the whole story in a little bit. But so in 2018, I was doing it at my house. My wife was like, you can't do it out of the house anymore. So I got the location. I was like, fine, whatever. I got the lease. I leased the spot. I'm like, yes, I got a location. I can take on customers from wherever. I got to start marketing. I couldn't really market the way I wanted to at the time because I was still holding my corporate job. So I would do SMP on the nights and on weekends. And I was just trying to get any customers I could, still friends, family, still doing it for free, just getting my practice to build up my portfolio and build up my skills. And then eventually I went and trained with a Master SMP Artist up in New York. Shout out John Giroux up at Giroux Hair Inc. He's great. It's good to train with multiple people. And so I kept getting better and better, and then I kept getting more customers and more customers. And in the end of 2019, so right before COVID, my wife and I decided to sell our house in October. And we sold our house, and then I had to move in with her parents for 6 weeks because we couldn't move into my house until December 2019. Then later, December 30th, my wife, we were expecting a baby, she had a miscarriage. So that was sad, that was kind of terrible. So that really upset us. And then COVID happened about 3 months later. So then I started working from home, which was great. Everybody was happy to work from home, I'd say. That was a big change in corporate America. And we were doing great. I was working, I was still doing SMP, working from home, doing both. It kept getting busier and busier. Even during COVID, surprisingly, people were like, they were renovating their decks, but they also, I guess, were looking in the mirror more. So they were like, I'm gonna get scalp micropigmentation on my head, or I want to get my hairline back, which was great business. September, they told me, Joey, and I was working for JP Chase, great company, great benefits, 401k, 29 days vacation. They said, you're getting laid off. Basically, you have 45 days to find a new position at the company, or you can walk away. And I was like, I did the math. Walking away from corporate America, you have health benefits, you have your 401k, you have your vacation days, you have a secure job. And I could have easily found a position, but I was like, this is the perfect time for me to walk away from corporate America. So November 2020 was my last day in corporate America, and I'm really happy about that. But it's risky, right? You have a mortgage, you have a car payment, you got bills. I have to pay the rent at where I'm renting at my location, insurance. It was very risky and very scary. And plus, my wife had gotten pregnant again, and my son was going to be born in January 2021. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make myself good enough. I'm going to force myself to make sales. I'm going to force myself to become the best artist I can be. So I just put in the work. I just consistently kept practicing, getting more customers, just keep marketing, and putting it out there, and just practicing, getting better and better. And so far it's working out, because today is June 29th, 2022, and I have not even thought about going back to corporate America. And I respect everybody in corporate America. It's a great job security, but it wasn't for me. And if I ever wanted to go back, I could, right?
Oh, wow. That's incredible. You took that leap of faith, and it is definitely working for you, because according to my research, you are the #1 SMP in Delaware.
Thank you.
It's how did you get here? Like, what's the story?
Practice. I mean, technically, as far as I know, I was the first SMP artist, but that doesn't make you the #1, because there are at least 10 plus people doing SMP in Delaware. But what I did is I just continuously practiced, and I cut the ropes, and I forced myself to grow. It was either grow, get better, or fail. And I refused to fail. I refused to tank and crawl back to corporate America, basically. So I trained with multiple artists. I analyzed my skill, and I'm being your own worst critic is not fun when you're looking at your work and you're like, oh, you could have did this better, you could have did that better. But you have to. If you want to get better in anything in life, you have to be your own worst critic. You have to look at your work and you say, how can I do this better? You have to take a step back. Can I do this? Can I make this hairline lower? Can I make it more natural? Can I break it up? Can I use this ink? Can I use that needle? Can I blend? Do I need to do 4 sessions? Do I need to do 5, 6, 7? However many sessions it took. Everything that I learned in corporate America helps me run this business better, because what they do is they focus on the best customer experience, and that's what I try to give people. I want to give them the best possible customer experience because I want them to be happy, and I want good Google reviews. It's very important, you know, you don't want people leaving bad Google reviews. Even though somebody left a couple fake Google reviews, and I got four of them removed, but I think there's still 2 fake ones. And I don't even know who these people are, to be honest. Some people are mean. People are just mean for whatever reason. Maybe they came in, I still haven't figured it out, but maybe they came in, they couldn't afford it or something like that, and they're like, you know, screw him, I'm just going to talk crap online.
And internet trolls.
Yes. They're the worst.
They're mean, for sure.
But I'm like, eventually I was like, I looked up, how do I deal with this, you know, because first of all, getting a hold of somebody at Google is a nightmare. I'm sure, I mean, you're in marketing, you know, it's rough. So I got getting a hold of them, I finally did. They said they can't remove them. And so I was like, I responded to them and I basically explained, hey dude, you're impacting my business. I don't know who you are. I said, what's your name? What's your name? Who are you? Why are you doing this to me? I have bills, I have a family, I got to take care of my son. Why are you doing this to me? This is impacting my income. And then they stop. So fortunately, I think I tug on their heartstrings a little bit to let them know I'm a real person and this isn't, you know, some giant company who you can just talk crap on and troll and ruin their business just for whatever reason, or maybe you think it's funny. So that worked, thankfully. So troll, if you're out there watching, thank you for stopping. I wish you would delete the current comments, but we'll see.
You are the #1 scalp micropigmentation in Delaware, and people have traveled hundreds of miles just to come and get you to work on their head and just restore a full head of hair for them. How did you get here?
Thank you for saying that.
Now, Joey Dots, that's a great name, by the way. How did you become the Joey Dots?
Yeah, so I wasn't born this person who wakes up 4 o'clock in the morning, goes, works out, sits in the sauna, and then comes here and works on their own business. I wasn't like that at all. I was actually a very shy, intimidated, and very self-conscious kid. I grew up poor. We lived in a little trailer park. My mom had me when she was 16 years old, and 5 days later she turned 17. Our birthdays are 5 days apart. I'm 34 years old, and I grew up in Bear, Delaware for the most part, and a little bit of time in Newark. And for about the first 9 years of my life, I lived with my sister, my brother, my stepdad, and my mom, and we lived in this little trailer. We were on welfare, food stamps. They actually used to bring us free lunch to the neighborhood. Like the state would put them in little bags and then go to a central location like the park, and then we'd all go there and they'd give out lunch just because they knew the kids needed food for whatever reason. And it was just, I was surrounded by a lot of people who I wouldn't call mentors. There were a lot of people that were living in the trailer park, because from the outside it just looks like this is like a white trash area, basically. That's what you look like from the outside, and I hated it. I hated being poor. I hated not being able to go on vacation or do anything. My dad wasn't around. So what I was saying is, I lived there till I was about 9 years old, and when I was about 8 years old, my mom sits my brother and me down and says, the guy who's been raising you for these past 8 years is not your biological father. And we're like, what? Your biological father is on drugs, but now I guess he's sober, and it's basically a court mandate. I need to now go live or go visit him every other week for like a year. I guess he was sober for that year. So that's when I finally got introduced to my biological father. And I hated doing that. I hated going to those sessions or sleeping there overnight on the weekend. It really messes with you when you're a little kid and you find out, hey, this guy's not even your dad who's been kind of raising you. This other person is, and you think, well, why doesn't my real dad want to be in my life? Why doesn't he want to take care of me? Why doesn't he, want to be a father, be a dad? It's depressing, and it really hurts. And so once I found that out, eventually my mom got divorced from my stepdad, and I love my mom to death, but she has her own demons. She has a lot of childhood trauma because my grandfather's kind of crazy, and it just trickled down each generation. So my mom has all this childhood trauma, and she's 16 and she had me. Basically, she tried to commit suicide a few times, and so then my grandmother, and that really messes with, when you're like 9 years old, your mom tries to commit suicide, it really messes with your head. My grandmother was like, fine, I'll take Joseph. And so I went to live with her for a couple years, and then eventually we all moved in to this new trailer. My mom, my brother, and me, and my sister went and lived with her dad. And that's when it split, and that was around when I was like 11, 12 years old. And so we're in this new trailer, a little nicer than the previous trailer, but still surrounded by idiots. And I just want to say, there's nothing wrong with living in a trailer. It just wasn't for me. I didn't like that atmosphere. I didn't like being poor. I absolutely hated it. I didn't like seeing my friends who had a nice house, a garage, they went on vacation, they had both parents, they had all this food, they had all these toys and stuff. I hated seeing that. I liked hanging out with them, but I was envious. I was like, why don't I have that? Why don't I have that? What's wrong with me? And so it's depressing as a kid. So then once I moved in with my grandmother and my brother and my mom, I was like, I got to get out of here. So I started doing sports. I wanted to spend the least amount of time at home. So I started wrestling, and I did some track, and I played football and baseball. That really started to boost my confidence. And then when I turned 17, 18, I was like, we can't afford, my mom couldn't even give me braces. I had to get braces, pay for my own braces when I was 18. I was like a shark. I had like 18 extra teeth and all this stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, my mom can't pay for college. And be honest, I was immature. My mom was a waitress. She didn't make much money. We're still on welfare, food stamps. So I was like, I'm going to join the military. So I joined the Navy, and luckily I signed up for 4 years, but I was able to get out in under 2 with an honorable discharge because they turned my ship. I was on the JFK CV-67. They turned my ship basically into like a floating museum. They have all nuclear aircraft carriers now. This was a steam propulsion aircraft. So they had to send 5,000 men and women to different locations. So I could have went to any tech school, any ship, any port. I could have went to Japan, Hawaii, anything. And I was like, well, I want to get out. Can I get out with an honorable discharge? They're like, yeah. They didn't want me to, but they let me. And I was like, do I get my benefits? They were like, we'll give you like most of your benefits. I was like, sold. And the guy, he was like, the chief, he was like, I'll never forget this. He was like, why do you want to get out? What are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to go to college. He's like, you won't last a semester in college. You're not going to last a semester. So I was like, okay. Okay. So I took that as kind of like a challenge to a certain extent, and I didn't want him to be right. And he was right, because if I didn't go to college, what was I going to do? It would have been stupid, because why not do the 20 years in the military, get the pension when you're 38, 39, and then move on to the next phase of life. So I was just pumped up, honestly, to graduate high school, because most people in my family didn't graduate high school. I'm still one of the few people who actually walked across the stage and graduated high school. And there's nothing wrong with getting your GED or getting your diploma after. It just wasn't for me. I wanted to earn it the right way. But, so graduated high school, 17 years old, 2005. I went to Glasgow High School here in Newark, Delaware. And then joined the Navy. I was able to get out in under 2 years, got the honorable discharge. And then I was like, I gotta come back to Delaware. But I'm definitely not moving back into that little trailer, fighting with my brother, just dealing with a whole bunch of bull crap. So I was like, I'm gonna get an apartment with my friends and go to school. And I couldn't afford $900 a month. So I got 2 roommates, so we could do 300, 300, 300, right? So I worked full time, went to school full time, paid my bills full time, worked out full time, all that, partied full time for 7 years. And it was hard, it was rough, but it was worth it, 100% worth it. I was working as a security guard 40 hours a week, and I would go to school, do whatever work I could, then go to work. And sometimes I'd try to actually do my schoolwork at work if I could at the time. And eventually in 2012, I was able to get my bachelor's degree, first person in my family to have a college diploma, got my bachelor's degree in organizational business management. And then I was like, well, I've already came this far. I was like, the Navy's still gonna pay for like at least half of my master's degree. So I was like, what's gonna keep happening? What's gonna keep moving forward? And I thought, technology, right? That's not gonna go away. No technology is gonna go away. It's just gonna keep increasing. So I went to school I got a master's in management information systems and information systems technology, IT basically.
So now you got your master's in 2014. What did you do after that?
Graduated 2014 with a master's degree. Definitely the first one to do that in my family. And it was a lot of uncomfortable nights, long days, times where I wanted to give up, where I was like, why am I even doing this? I just wanted to quit. I just wanted to work full time. But I'm so glad I did it. And anybody out there who's thinking about furthering your education, just do it. Just suck it up, do it, do the work. You'll thank yourself later. Just do the work, get it over with, because you're only going to be young and in your 20s for so long. So getting that hard crap over with before you have kids, before you have a family, before you have all these other responsibilities, a mortgage payment, just get it over with and move on, and you'll thank yourself. Your future self will thank you if you do the hard work now. I promise you. I promise you.
It's truly incredible how you graduated your undergrad in 4 years.
Yeah, I was able to transfer some of the credits from the Navy actually over. They worked as an elective, which was cool. I have credits in like nautical science.
That's amazing, and how dare that sergeant telling you were gonna fail. I mean, most kids these days, they don't graduate any degree within the right time frame.
Yeah.
So the fact that you did everything on time says something.
Yeah, it was brutal. I had to do some summer classes, but I just wanted to get it done. That chief he really did motivate me, and my whole life I just wanted to prove people wrong, because statistically, people from my demographic and background, a poor kid from the trailer park, no dad, he's on drugs, my mom had her demons, single parent home, welfare, most of them are on drugs, in jail, uneducated, jobless, living off the government, stuff like that. And I just didn't want to be like that. That's really what it came down to. I didn't want to be like that. I refused to lower my standards. And in 2012, my biological father, he died of a heroin overdose. So, I did go to the funeral. I forgave him because I needed to for myself more, just so I could kind of move on. It is what it is. He wasn't there for me, whatever. I think it just made me stronger. But I don't want my kid to grow up the way I grew up. So that's why I waited to have kids. But I knew that I always wanted to do things the quote unquote right way. I wanted to go to school, go to college, get a job, buy a house, get married, all that sort of thing. I knew that I wanted to do it that way because I didn't have that growing up, so I kind of wanted to build it myself because it was my only option. Because the whole time going through this process, going through college for 7 years, I was thinking, if I just quit, if I just stop, I'm just going to be stuck in this situation. Unless I hit the lottery or something like that, or get really good at like poker, I didn't see how I could benefit long term. I'd just be stuck in the same shitty situation. So unless I do something now, I'm not going to be able to move forward in life. So I sucked it up and I just did it. I just want to prove people wrong and show people that just because you come from a negative background and you come from a shitty environment, that it's not the end of the world. You don't have to stay there. It is your decisions and not your conditions that shape your destiny. And by putting yourself out front and just doing the work, you can really change your life. And through going through that process, it changed me as a person. It changed my mentality. It changed how I conduct my life. It changes my perception on everything. Because in the past, I was always trying to take the easy way. I always look for the easiest way. Oh, how can I take a shortcut? How can I take the easy way? How can I cut corners? But now I'm just like, if I just do the hard part now, the rest of my life will be easier. So if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So you got your master's in 2014. Then what?
So I got my master's degree, and I was dating my now wife at the time, my girlfriend, Brittany. Shout out to Brittany, I love you. She's been great. I was living in an apartment, and I was like, I'm not going to go spend all this money on a really expensive ring before I have a house. So my first goal was, let me buy a house, something that I've dreamed of my whole life. I used to ride down the road and be like, I wish my mom would buy that house or even that house. Just anything to get out of the trailer park. And so 2015, we bought my first house. And that was awesome. We lived there for 4.5 years. And during that time, I proposed to Brittany at that time. So that was cool. Got engaged in August 2015. Then we got married in October 2016. We did all these renovations and made the house. And we eventually sold it in, like I was saying earlier, October 2019 until we got our new house.
So you got married in 2016, and then what?
So we got married, we were living in a house, doing the whole married, we got a dog. It was great. We were living a happy little family, doing renovations, watching the DIY channel, doing things. I messed up a few things, but saved some money. Then I was like, I want to get better at public speaking. So I found out that the company I was working for, JPMC at the time, had this thing called Toastmasters. Have you ever heard of Toastmasters?
I have.
Yeah, so I was like, and Toastmasters is great for anybody who wants to become more of a leader or become a competent communicator. I was like, I got a story to tell. And what you do in Toastmasters is you write your own dialogue, you write your own script, and then you go up there and you have to give speeches in front of people that are 7 minutes long, 7 to 7.5 minutes long, and they count your your body language, everyone's staring at you and grilling you, and then after you're done your speech, they tell you all this in front of everybody, so it's brutal, and you have to do it 10 times, to make it to the next level. But I was decent at first, and they're like, man, you're doing really good. So like, you should enter a speaking competition. There's a humorous speech competition. So I was like, really? They're like, yeah, enter the humorous speech competition. I was like, okay. So I did. I entered the humorous speech competition, and when I got on stage, so I made it to the next round. So let me give a summary of how the Toastmasters competition works. So in Toastmasters, they have an international speech contest, which I'll talk about, but this is the humor speech contest. And so I went on stage in front of about 100 people, and I went up there and I was saying my speech, everyone's critiquing me, and I'm competing with other people from around the state. And I locked eyes with my wife. And when I locked eyes with my wife, I had a brain fart, and I completely forgot what I was supposed to say. And so I just wanted to jump off the stage, run out of the building, like, I quit. It was terrible. You have so many people staring at you, you're like, It was terrible. What I did was I jumped off, I grabbed my paper, and I went up there, and I was like, and I just read it. And they clapped for me, which was great, but that was brutal. That was brutal. But I was like, I'm gonna enter the international speech competition, which is it's called inspirational. So versus the first one was humorous, so it's like a funny one, and then this is an inspirational speech, and I knew I could do better than that. So they were like, Joey, you're doing great. Why don't you enter the international? I was like, okay, but I want to win. So I entered it 2017, and I won the first round. I won the first round of the competition. It's kind of like the Olympics of public speaking. So if you win 4 rounds, you're in the final bracket against people from all over the world. India, Africa, Mexico, everywhere. Won the first round, beat everyone at the company, beat everyone in like Newark, Wilmington. Then I made it to the next round, which is like the Tri-County area, Delaware, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, DC, and I beat everybody there. And then I made it to the third round, and I got second place. And I'm not going to sit here, make excuses or argue, but I was kind of upset because I thought I was better than that guy. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I won. 2 rounds. Nobody else had really done that at Chase to that point. And then the next year in 2018, I was like, I'm going to enter it again. And then I did the exact same thing. I won the first round, won the second round, won the district, won the division, and then I came in second place again. And in that same time period, I also started training in scalp micropigmentation. So I put a hold on competition speaking because it's very strenuous and stressful and exhausting. And I'll sit there and I'll give speeches, you know, recording myself over and over and over again, because you got to memorize it. This is all memorized, or at least you're supposed to, if you want to do good.
Now at this point in your life, you have started Delaware SMP, and you're putting your Toastmasters on the back burner. What do we do from here?
Yeah, so I couldn't focus my energy on Toastmasters anymore. I wanted to focus on becoming the best SMP artist that I could become. So that's when I started training, got the certification down in DC, came back up to Delaware, was doing SMP on friends, family, anybody who would be a guinea pig, sacrificed a big chunk of my leg, and doing it out of my house on nights, weekends, using vacation days on anybody who would let me. Until eventually my wife said, you can't do this out of the house anymore, you have to rent somewhere, because she didn't want a bunch of strangers coming in the house, which I think is a reasonable request. And so I was like, okay, well this is a real commitment. I have to put the deposit down, I'm gonna have to make renovations at this place, which means I'm gonna have to pay rent, so I'm gonna have to pay the mortgage, and I'm gonna have to pay the rent, and I'm gonna have to work my full-time job at JPMC, and this job full-time, and continue to work out and eat right and all that other stuff and pay all the bills. But my whole life has been stressful, so that's all I kind of know. My whole life has been stressful with a lot of pressure on it. So it's like, it's nothing new to me, it is what it is, I just do it. Because if I sit there and think about it, it'll drive me crazy. You know what I mean? If you just sit there and let it wear you down. So moved in, put the deposit in, moved into the unit, made the renovations, passed inspection, and it was a slow start. It was a slow start getting people in the door, but then it kept picking up each month, more and more exposure. Scalp micropigmentation, what's scalp micropigmentation? And then eventually, this was all ended 2018, 2019. We sold our house October 2019, our first house, because the business was doing well, and eventually we wanted to have a kid, and my wife wanted to move closer to her mom, pretty much. So then we got a nicer house and a bigger house up here in Newark versus down in Newcastle where we were living. And we had to move in with her parents for about 6 weeks, and then we moved into our new house December 2019. December 30th, 2019, my wife had a miscarriage, which was terrible. And then 3 months later, COVID hit, but my wife then gets pregnant during COVID, so March 2020, my wife got pregnant after the miscarriage, and everyone's working from home because COVID happened. I'm working for my company and I'm doing my regular corporate job. And then in September, 6 months into working at home from COVID, they're like, we're eliminating your position. I'm like, what? But I have a kid coming on the way. You know I got a kid coming on the way. You're eliminating my position. So I was very scared and I was pissed. I was like, you guys are really gonna make me leave my company? You're really gonna lay me off? They were like, well, you can find a new job in the next 45 days you have. And I could have. I really could have, very easily. I even kind of had some job offers. I was like, you know what? Business is doing good. I'm getting better. I don't want to keep juggling the two. I want to focus on growing my business. So I walked away. I walked away from corporate America. Extremely scary. You know, you lose the health benefits. I got a kid on the way. You lose the 401k. You lose the matching contribution, the vacation days, the guaranteed check. You lose all of that. But I was like, I'm going to do it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now before my son's born. So at least I can get a little head start on it. And so we did our research and we found some health benefits and all that sort of thing that we could afford. And then my son was born January 2021, and that was a whole new project. And I love my son to death. And everyone tells you that having a kid is like the greatest thing in the world, and you hear all that and all that, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And it is, it's great. I highly recommend, if you want to have a kid, but do it the right way. And that's why I waited till I was 33 years old to have a kid, because my mom had me at 16. I knew what it's like to grow up in an environment where the parent is not prepared. So I was like, if I'm going to have a kid, I'm going to do it the quote-unquote right way and be prepared. And even though you prepare as much as you can, you're still not fully prepared. So now my son's 18 months old, and I love him to death, and it's changed my life. So now my goal is to become the best father I can be the father I didn't have, because that's my ultimate goal. I want him to grow up with a role model, someone he can look up to, and give him the opportunities that I didn't have. So that's ultimately my goal. But I also don't want to make him a spoiled brat. So I'm trying to find the balance, because I want to give him the stuff, and I will give him stuff, to have fun. But I don't want to make him, a spoiled brat. I'm sure we all know some of them. And then, so fast forward. Business is doing great. I have my son, so now I'm running the business full time, being a dad. And then in December 2021, I'm told, hey Joey, you can't renew your lease. You can't renew your lease. And your lease is up February 28th. So I got 2.5 months to move, because my landlord at the time said he's expanding his practice. And I'm like, you couldn't tell me that like a year ago or something? So now I gotta move my whole business. And I have a young kid, and it's a lot. And I'm like, man, I don't feel like moving. I got to pass inspection, whatever. Rent's really high. So fortunately, I was able to find this location, and I convinced the guy to sell it to me. So I bought this unit. It was all carpet. All this whole room was all wood paneling. Me and Christian did renovations. My sister, I hired people. I convinced my landlord to let me move out the end of May. So give me like 3 extra months in there, and I continued to pay the rent. And I was able to secure the deal on 4/20, closed on this place. And then for 6 weeks, I worked over in the other location, did renovations here, until eventually I passed inspection with the DHSS, Delaware Health and Safety, on January 2nd, 2022. And here we are 24 days later, doing an interview here in the new location.
It's impressive. I have to say that.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of hard work, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Wow. Talk about overcoming adversity. You are the true definition of a successful upward mobility. I mean, you've had a really tough road. There have been curveballs that have been thrown at you that were very uncomfortable. How do you stay so motivated?
Good question, and thanks for saying that. I stay motivated. The main reason, well, obviously everyone gives a generic answer. My son. I want my son to have a better life. But really it comes down to what you do on a daily basis. So 3-4 times a week, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I'll eat breakfast, I'll then go drive to the gym, go in the sauna for 30 minutes, then I'll go stretch for 15 minutes. And while I'm working out, I listen to audiobooks, because I'm trying to always gain more knowledge. I even cut the grass with audiobooks or a podcast. And then I'll work out for 45 minutes. Sometimes I'll then get in the hot tub, because I'm spoiled now because I go to a nice gym. And then I'll get dressed, shower, and come here and go to work. And I always try to get home by like 5 or 6 so I can spend a couple hours with my son before he goes to bed. And the way that I do that is, and this is what I recommend to anybody who's trying to achieve any goal, is write down what you want. Write down everything you want to do, a long list, as long as it has to be, and then narrow it down to 10 things, and then narrow it down to 5. And then once you get down to those 5 main things, chunk it out and say, okay, I want to graduate school, I want to get a degree, I want to learn a new job, I want to get married, whatever the case might be, I want to become a chef or start a business. Once you have that goal set, then write down everything you need to do to achieve that goal. And don't lie to yourself. That's the biggest thing I can tell people. Don't lie to yourself. A lot of times, even with traffic, I know people who will lie, going somewhere, oh, it's going to take me 20 minutes, when really it's going to take you 40 minutes. Don't lie to yourself. So I'm very realistic. So I have these lists, and I can show them to you after we're done talking. It'll say 4:30, wake up, 4:35, walk downstairs because I have to take a pee or something. And then 4:45, start cooking breakfast. I chunk it out. I chunk my days out by 15, 30-minute segments, so there's the least amount of time wasted. Now, do I stick to the whole schedule? I try to stick as close as I possibly can to it. There's a lot of ambiguity, things that happen, a lot of uncertainty, but I try to stick to it. And if you do that consistently, day after day, or at least week after week, eventually you're going to hit your goal. You just do a little bit at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. Hey, I want this degree. You got to do the shitty class. You got to do the hard class. You got to do the calculus, if that's what you're going for. You have to do the classes that have nothing to do with whatever degree you're trying to obtain. It's just part of life. that's what you have to do. So you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and eventually it's going to pay off. My whole mindset is, if I just do the work, I will eventually get there. Things will happen for me. And I think a lot of reasons why people don't chase after their goal is they feel like they don't deserve it, or they're self-conscious. If you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to do the hard stuff, then you do deserve it. I promise you. I'm telling you, you do deserve to be successful if you're willing to put in the work. So don't let that. And don't ask permission. I didn't ask anybody for permission to start scalp micropigmentation. I was like, I'm doing this, whether you want me to or not, who cares. I knew if, like the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. That was my mentality. I'm build Delaware SMP and people will come, and so far it's been working out for me. That's everything I do in life, is I just do the work, and I know that it should eventually work out. Now, it doesn't work out always as planned or perfect, but eventually it will all come together.
That's a perfect explanation. It makes sense how you have everything planned out, and that's how you are able to just stay on track every single day.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Delaware SMP.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your company.
Yep. Delaware Scalp Micropigmentation, as you can see, this is our logo right here. People are always complimenting my logo. Thank you for all the compliments. It's me. If you didn't guess, it's me. It's a graphic design of me. It says Delaware SMP. So we offer scalp micropigmentation. That's my main product. My sister does eyelashes, so anybody who needs eyelash extensions, she can do eyelash extensions. We also do microblading, so anybody who needs new eyebrows for whatever reason, or maybe they're too thin, or you just want thicker, fuller eyebrows. That's kind of like a trend right now. I know, like when we were kind of in high school, it was very thin, right?
Yes, really, yeah, I remember trying to get them super thin.
Yeah, but now bushy eyebrows is like the new thing. So if you want permanent eyebrows, or you're just tired of putting on makeup, my sister can do the eyelash extensions and microblading. And my main service is scar camouflage, density fills on thinning scalp, and then recreating the hairline, SMP. And we can do all that here.
And I also saw on your website something about trainings?
Yes, good question. So I trained with like 5 different master artists from around the country and around the world. And so now at Delaware SMP, we're in our new location. I do offer scalp micropigmentation training, which comes with a certification. You'll train with me, either one-on-one or in a small group setting, no more than 4 people. You get all the supplies are included. You get a starter kit, you get the gun, you'll practice on a live person, and it's a little expensive. People would say expensive. It's usually about $4,000. That's our current rate. But once you make a couple sales, you make that money back, and also it's a tax write-off. So it's kind of like a win-win. So if you invest that $4,000, one, you're learning a skill, and you train with me for a week, and then you can come back and shout at me whenever you work on a live person, and you can always ask me whatever. You'll get the certification, you go do your thing. But one thing I do want to call out is, just because you learn scalp micropigmentation, you get the certification, doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to train, get better, practice. I can't make you good. You have to make you good. But it is possible. You just got to put in the work, stay focused, and constantly push yourself to the next level.
That's a great opportunity for people that are trying to start their own businesses. Now, for people out there that have dealt with adversity, just like you, what advice would you give them?
Good question. So anybody out there who thinks like the world is against them, or you're a victim, or crazy things have happened to you, things that are out of your control, just know that that happens to everybody, maybe at different levels. Somebody might have a better life, but there's always somebody who has a worse life than you, especially in the United States. Being poor here is different than being poor down in Mexico or Africa or Peru or one of these countries. It's a different type of poor. Or Afghanistan, all the crazy stuff that's happening with them. So my advice to anybody who's facing adversity is focus on your goals and don't lower your standards. And be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're going to have to do things that you don't want to do, but ultimately they will pay off. So you do the things you don't want to do, so eventually you can do the things that you actually do want to do. That's what it's about, because you can't just skip a whole bunch of steps and expect to be successful, especially if you're starting from a lower tier. You got to work your ass off to get there. And I believe in you. You got to believe in yourself, though. You have to be your own cheerleader. Even if nobody else believes in you, you have to be your own biggest cheerleader, believe in yourself, and push yourself to the next level.
That is some great advice. You truly are motivational. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I appreciate being able to learn more about Delaware SMP.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Wrap.
From Joey Dots.